thank you everybody for coming or for being wherever you are. Looks like we were very effective at getting people to come by Zoom rather than in person, so we have avoided the large crowd we had at the last workshop. And I'm going to step here where I won't be in people's way of the screen, which means I'm going to disappear for the purposes of Zoom viewers, but you'll still hear me, I'm sorry to say. So I'm Bob Herring-Smith. I and my co-coordinator, Dory Drockman, of the Peterborough Renewable Energy Project will be doing this presentation. I'm going to talk about NHSaves, that is the financial assistance that the state provides for the first part, and Dory will then take up the federal assistance that is either available or coming down the pike this year for the second part. PREP, as you may know, has been involved with this kind of work really since the voters passed a warrant article in 2021 committing the town to move to 100% renewable energy by 2050 and for electricity by 2030. The plan to do that was approved in December of 22 by the Peterborough Select Board, and we've been working since then to implement the plan. And so the series of workshops that we began last month with the heat pump workshop, which is available online to see if you weren't actually here, is the first in a monthly series that so far we've planned out to May, and presumably we'll go beyond that, although we might skip the summer, we'll see. We'll see what happens. We've also been working in a number of other areas, but I encourage you to visit the prepnh.org website to learn about that. We will take questions. Of course, if you're in the room, then you can raise your actual hand. If you are on Zoom, then you'll find at the bottom of your Zoom screen either a raise hand icon, or if there's not quite enough room for all the possible icons, you'll find 3 dots labeled More, and on the menu associated with clicking on that, there will be raise hand. So raise your hand if you are on Zoom and want to ask a question. We'll stop for questions at the end of my part of the presentation, and then again at the end of Dory's part. Okay, so onward.
Oh, come on. Really?
It was so easy before.
It was, there we go, okay.
It was advancing itself.
Okay.
So this part you've already heard. That's us. This part you've already heard too. prepnh.org is the place to go. And now, on to the show. Okay, so NHSaves, New Hampshire Saves, is the state's main program for funneling financial assistance to residents, businesses, and other organizations in the state who want to do any kind of energy work. And that would include fuel assistance, weatherization, buying energy efficient appliances, that sort of thing. And you can see the list of things that they do. The solar arrays are really handled directly through the New Hampshire Department of Energy, but the rest of it is done through New Hampshire Saves. And we'll be talking about each of those items as we go forward. So let's go forward. All right. The main point to make about energy actually is that the energy you don't use is really, really cheap because it's free. And so the best thing you can do really is to make your home energy efficient. Make it use less energy, and then you don't have to pay for that. And this is some data from the Energy Information Administration on how energy gets used in a typical single-family home. The data is not greatly different for multifamily homes. You get a little bit of benefit from your neighbors with regard to insulating your unit. But it's the case, no matter where you're living, that heating and cooling is going to be the place where most of your energy is going. And so for that reason, you want to focus on heating and cooling for the same reason that Willie Sutton robbed banks. That's where the money is. And so there are a couple of ways you could address heating and cooling. one way would be to make the generation of the heat or the cooling more efficient, so that the same amount of energy going in produces more effect coming out. The other possibility is to prevent the heating and cooling that has been generated from escaping into the great outdoors. And there's actually a definite order in which you want to do that, and that is to focus on the weatherization, that is making your home energy tight, and then looking at generating the heating and cooling more efficiently. The reason is that once you make your home more energy tight, it may be that you can spend less money to buy a device to produce the heat that you then need. I talked to somebody a month or so ago who, he must have had a very leaky house, I have to say. But he did a big weatherization effort on his house, and he found that afterwards he could install heat pumps that produced only 2/3 of the amount of heat that had been produced by the oil furnace that they were replacing. So much less money spent on those heat pumps because you could tell that you didn't need one with so much capacity after the weatherization was done. Okay, so let's move on. So what will New Hampshire Saves do for you with regard to weatherization? Well, that's actually where they put their money too, for the reasons I've just described. What you want to do is go to the New Hampshire Saves website, NHSaves.com, and look for a test your home button. It's not on the home screen. You'll have to dig down into weatherization, and you may have to click on a test your home button twice as it takes you from one screen to another. But eventually you will get to a screen that looks something like this. What this is a quick way for you to get a reading on how efficient your home is right now at retaining the energy that you are generating within it. So if you have to fill out some basic stuff, the key things are how much square footage in your home is being heated right now, and how much fuel is going into producing that heating. So if you have an oil boiler, it'll be gallons of oil. If you have a propane furnace, it'll be gallons of propane. It might be cords of wood if you have two sources. If you have both a furnace and a wood stove that you use for heat, then you want to put both those in. If you are using electricity, then you'll have to get a little bit more involved, because they have to have some mechanism to try to separate out the electricity being used for heat from the electricity being used for other purposes. That's a little bit trickier. It's obvious that all your oil is going toward heat. Okay, so having done that, you'll get one of two outcomes. And those two outcomes are, Dory? One, you're not too badly off. That means you're relatively efficient. It doesn't mean that there's nothing that can be done, but there's nothing essentially that New Hampshire Saves is going to do for you. You qualify for a free visual audit, and having been through this process myself, I would say that a visual audit is no audit at all. However, you do get free Wi-Fi thermostats, LED light bulbs, pipe wrap, faucet aerators, a number of things they'll install for you for free, and you are required to accept at least one Wi-Fi thermostat in order to get all this stuff for free. So the advantage of that is that you have more control over the heating in your house. Without very much effort, you can have it warm in a zone where you're spending your time at a particular time of day, and then let it cool off when you're not using that zone. So using less heat. The other possibility is your home is not that well insulated, not that well weatherized. And in that case, you will qualify for what's called a level 2 energy audit. Somebody will come, they'll talk to you, they'll look around the house, they will do something called a blower door test, which helps to identify air leaks in the house, which is an important source of heat loss. They'll look at a thermal scan of your house to see where the heat is escaping. And they'll go away and write up a report with recommendations about the things that are going to have the greatest impact and some idea of how much it will cost. When you get that audit, you will have to pay $100 at the time the auditor comes to your home. but that money will come back to you in the form of a credit for any work that you actually get done as a result of the audit. Now, how will New Hampshire Saves help with the cost? Well, this is something that actually depends only slightly on income. Doesn't matter what your income is, you can get some assistance from New Hampshire Saves to do weatherization in your home, provided you've been through this process. And that amount is up to $6,000, up 75% of the cost, up to $6,000 at least. Sorry, at least 75%. I have to be precise about this. The limit is $6,000 regardless of your income, but if your income is a little higher, then it'll be 75% of the cost. If your income is lower, they'll pay 100% of the cost, up to $6,000, for the work done in response to this level 2 audit. Okay, and in addition, you're eligible for inexpensive financing for energy efficiency improvements. So that's a pretty good deal. One thing I will say though is that it's, I guess, such a great deal, and the workforce is not sufficiently well developed in this area right now to match the current demand. And so there is a bit of a backlog, and I would urge you to get started on this as soon as you can. Not only for that reason, but also because the New Hampshire Saves funds are a set amount. And once it runs out, then that's it for the year. Next year, there'll be another batch of funds you can call on, but the sooner you get going on this, the sooner you can get in the queue for contractors who do this work, and the sooner you can get in the queue for the rebate money coming from New Hampshire Saves. Okay, let's move on. So if you do have low income, if your income is no more than 60% of the state median income, then you qualify for a number of additional things. So one of them is what I already mentioned, 100% coverage of your weatherization work up to $6,000. But you also qualify for fuel and electricity help, discounts on your electric bill, things of that sort. To get into that system, you would need to contact the appropriate agency. In Peterborough, it would be Southern New Hampshire Services. If you happen to come from all the way over in Dublin, then you're in Cheshire County, and so you can contact Southwestern Community Services. And just to give you an idea about what the income limits are, those are the ones currently in place for households of different sizes.
And my understanding is that this queue to get services is even longer than,
Great.
yeah.
Yeah, there's a bit of a backlog. I guess it's particularly at the location of the service organizations that will qualify you for these discounts and rebates. Okay. All right, so we come to rebates. So this is money that you can get back or will be deducted from your contractor's invoice for things that you install in your house. I mentioned earlier that the most important things to look at are heating of space. Excuse me. The second most important thing, based on that data that I showed earlier, was heating of water for showers and dishwashing and so forth. Well, New Hampshire offers $250 per ton. That's $250 for 12,000 BTUs in rebates for a heat pump. How many BTUs you'll need to heat your home will depend on the house. It would be actually a pretty small space that would require only 12,000 BTUs. So you'd get perhaps some multiple of $250 depending on the size of the heat pump that you install. Heat pump water heater, you get $750 back. Now, a lot of this can be handled by your contractor. I installed a heat pump water heater last fall, and the contractor simply took $750 off the invoice, and so I paid him less, and then they took care of any paperwork with New Hampshire Saves so that they got the $750. But in the meantime, I had already benefited. If for some reason your contractor is unable to do that or unwilling to do that, then you can take care of applying for the rebate yourself. The forms are on the New Hampshire Saves website. You need to submit the request for work done this year by the end of January next year. And again, funds are limited, so you want to get that in as soon as you can. Carol?
Would you like some water?
Yeah, I guess that might not be a bad idea.
And this is independent of an audit, prior audit. This has nothing to do with it.
This has nothing to do with having done the audit. And it doesn't have anything to do, with your income either. So you can get this regardless.
And is that also a limited fund?
Yes.
So you have to be
Yeah.
early in the game. And if it isn't in 1 year, can you wait until the next year?
You can.
And then
Yeah.
submit the bill a year later.
Well, if the work is done in 2024, you have to request it. Get so choked up when I talk about this. If you do the work in 2024, it has to be a request against this year's funds. So you can't just do the work now and apply next year. I mean, you can apply until the end of January, but that's it. So I guess if you somehow found out that the funds were depleted and you weren't going to be able to get a rebate, then you might want to wait, but you'd have to weigh that against the savings you'd get from having a more energy efficient device.
How do you find out whether the fund is in it?
I honestly don't know. We keep an eye on this sort of thing, and so we would, if you're on our mailing list, as you will be, at least right after you've signed up, you can get off the mailing list whenever you want, but if you're on our mailing list, we'll let you know about things like that.
And you can also directly email us if we forget, which never happens. But if you want us to see if we can find out, just email us and we'll do that.
Yeah, the email address would be info@prepnh.org, or there's also a form on the prep website for sending in a message.
There is a question in the chat. Is there any rebate for heat pumps installed in 2023? I believe that's something you just,
It's too late now. You would have had to apply by January, the end of January this year, in order to get something for 2023. So you can see there are actually a number of different appliances for which there is some rebate. There's even a rebate for smart power strips. It's not that big, but it's the sort of thing where if you're not using something plugged into the power strip, it will stop drawing current from your house, and so a little bit more intelligent about its use of energy. Okay, onward. Another way in which you can get some money out of the state is turning in old stuff. If you have an air conditioner or a dehumidifier that still works, but you don't want to use anymore because it's very inefficient, you'd like to replace it by something newer for which you'll get a rebate, you can turn it in. Unfortunately, at this point, there's no turn-in opportunity that's that close either in time or space. The nearest one to here is not going to take place until September 14th at the Home Depot in Keene. If you don't mind traveling a little further, you can go to Concord on July 13th and do it. One thing is you need to be patient, not only to wait for the event to occur, but I turned in an old air conditioner last October. I got my check at the beginning of this week. So $30, Eversource sent me $30. I was trying to figure out why they would do that. They congratulated me on having purchased, which I hadn't done. And then I finally realized, oh yeah, this is the right amount for that air conditioner that I turned in. Although you haven't heard it from me, probably shouldn't say this on the recording, but maybe I can edit it out later. It's supposed to be a working device. So I went there thinking, okay, I checked it out. It was working when I left. And then I arrived and the event's taking place in a parking lot. There's no way to check if it's actually working. So they just take it and put you down for the rebate, and eventually the check arrives in the mail. Okay, one final point. It is actually extremely important that these devices be disposed of properly. They contain very potent greenhouse gas substances, which if they escaped into the air would do considerable harm. And so if you're not, I'm not going to take it to a turn-in service because it's one of these turn-in events because it's too far away, too long, you want to get it out of the house. Take it to the transfer station. You will have to pay to have them take it,
but they will also make sure that it gets disposed of properly.
How do you do it in Peterborough?
Take it to the transfer station, the recycling center. And, they'll come and take a look at it and say, okay, give us $20. And then they'll take it back into their space.
I believe that then you get the rebate.
Do you get the rebate too? Okay, I haven't tried it that way.
Yes, and when we're talking about very potent, we're talking thousands of times more potent than carbon dioxide. So it's
Wow.
huge.
Yeah, very important thing to do.
Hmm.
Okay, on. Okay, one final thing, I think. There are rebates for solar arrays. They don't amount to much. The real benefit of, the real incentive for solar arrays is the federal tax credit that Dorio mentioned. But the state does offer $200 per kilowatt of power in your solar array, up to $1,000 or 30% of the project cost. It used to be very straightforward. When I put in a solar array in 2019, the installer took care of all the paperwork for this rebate, and eventually I got a check for $1,000. Last year, there was a lottery held in the fall for anybody who had installed solar arrays last year or anticipated having their solar array working by the end of the year. And that determined the order in which people would be given rebates. And so the idea was that if there were too many people signed up and the funds ran out, well, we know who exactly is going to get the money. The nice thing last year was that 470 people or so signed up for the lottery and got ranked. There was about $370,000 in the fund, so that sounds like the last 100 people maybe are out of luck unless the first 370 have very small solar arrays. But they actually augmented the funds available so that there would be $1,000 available for everybody if they qualified for that. So no guarantees about what will happen this year. I haven't heard anything about whether it's going to be a lottery or how it's going to be handled. We'll try to stay up to date on that and let you know. And you can keep an eye on things on the New Hampshire Saves website as well. So do we have any hands up?
Yeah, so if anyone who is participating on Zoom has a question, use that raise hand feature, and you have your very own raise hand feature if you're in the room.
Left hand or right?
We're very open.
We're ambidextrous.
Yes.
Sure.
The turn-in part where we're bringing devices back to be,
Yeah,
that's independent of everything of the, I mean.
independent of everything else.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I just would.
Don't have to have done an audit, just you got this thing sitting in your garage, as I did, loaded it into the car, drove it off. And eventually got my $30.
There's Tim Burke has a question. Tim, do you want to ask your question?
Yes, thanks. So my solar panels were finally turned on in January of this year, so I can apply for a rebate in 2024?
Yes. Yeah, what counts is when you go active.
That's when they went active, yeah. I had the heat pump put in last year, and no one told me about a rebate last year, so I didn't know to apply for the
Sorry
heat
about
pump.
that. Yeah, I'm surprised your contractor wouldn't have handled that for you, but I guess not everybody does.
Okay.
Thanks,
Thanks.
Tim. Any other questions?
Yeah.
Yes, there's somebody else online.
Yeah. Hi, Mark.
I came in a little bit late. So what is the URL for New Hampshire Saves?
It's NHSaves.com.
Oh, okay, that's pretty easy.
Very easy.
Okay. NHSaves.com. And that has all the information that we need.
Yes. All you have to do is find it. But it's there. It's not actually not a bad website. They have a number of tiles on the home screen that would direct you to the thing that would be of most interest to you at that moment. So it's not bad.
So I think that using, we've two houses, so one needs a lot of weatherproofing. And the other not so much.
Mhm.
So how would we, we look on the New Hampshire Saves website to find out how
Yeah.
they do the,
Yeah, you might want to check the recording of this if you missed the beginning of the talk, because that was one of the first things I covered. But
okay,
on New Hampshire Saves website, there's a test your home button that will take you to a screen where you can put in the information about one of those homes and get a quick evaluation as to what kind of audit you might qualify for. And then,
okay, I remember that in the beginning. I
okay, yeah,
heard part of that, but, okay, thank you.
thanks, Mark.
Tim, did you have another question, or is this, is your hand raised from your first one?
Oh, sorry, I forgot to lower it.
That's okay.
No problem. Any other questions here? Yes.
Sorry.
The participation in New Hampshire Save, if you've already done it once, can you apply again?
Yes. Yeah,
Okay.
not for the same thing, of course, but if you've done work one year or you've done different work later in the year,
Okay.
yeah, you can apply for each one of those.
The first time we had it done, we're fairly recent residents up here. We moved up here from Massachusetts in 2016, actually 2017, when we finally settled in. And in 2018, we applied, the weatherization auditor that came out, his thermal scanner didn't work, his air blower didn't work. So we didn't get a complete audit.
No, I guess not.
So I was just wondering, can we start fresh?
Yeah, I would start fresh. Did you do any work as a result of that?
Yeah, but
Whatever,
but it was basically back of the envelope calculations were done and.
yeah,
And
okay,
they did that. We live in a late 18th century antique here.
yeah,
And so it's weatherization, native weatherization condition was very problematic.
yeah,
And but they did do some work.
okay. So just go again to that test your home form, put in the current information and see where it leads you.
Okay.
Sounds like it might lead you back to,
And
Energy
a follow-up question, if I could, that
Yeah.
the previous gentleman just triggered. It doesn't apply to us, but it may apply to other people. He mentioned 2 dwellings.
Mhm.
Do you have to be the occupant of the dwelling you apply for to qualify under New Hampshire Save?
You have to be the owner.
Oh, interesting.
So
So it can be could be an income property.
I guess I would not want to make a definitive statement about an income property. There is support through New Hampshire Saves for businesses, and it might be that would fall under a business, but I would try it, see what happens. I'll see if I can find an answer.
No,
to that
it's
question,
not for
but-
me, but for other people.
Yeah.
Because I hear a lot, we've heard a lot since we moved up here about ADUs,
Mhm. Yeah,
attached ADUs.
Right.
Second residence on at the same address, basically. So I was just curious.
yeah, I hesitate to say.
Okay.
But I would certainly look into it. I
I
have
would say
nothing
it's
to
highly
lose.
likely.
Yeah. Sure.
Regarding that question, I believe, I could be wrong, that if you have an income property and you have some work done through New Hampshire Saves, you're required to keep the rent below median income
Okay.
for like 4 years. Something
Yeah,
like that.
that is a requirement to get some of the rebates that are coming down the pike if you have a multifamily building that you rent out. Okay.
Can everybody see this? It should be a Rewiring America homepage. Everyone online sees this? So I would say if you get nothing else out of what I say this morning, get this website,
Rewiring America, that's the name.
rewiringamerica.org. It is going to be a huge help in not just the financing of whatever projects you want, but also helping you determine which ones are most important, what order you might want to go in, things like that. It is really user friendly. And it means that people like me who are not experts on the financing from the federal government can be helpful. Because much of the information is right here. So you will see in the upper right-hand corner, it says IRA savings calculator. So the IRA savings calculator, raise your hand if you've heard of the IRA. Anybody? Okay. Great. Jerry's heard of the IRA, excellent. Okay, so very few of you, and that's totally fine. So the IRA is the Inflation Reduction Act, which got passed in 2022. And how many of you think that the Inflation Reduction Act is primarily to reduce inflation? It is not. It's more, it would be better named the Carbon Pollution Reduction Act. Because it has, almost $370 billion worth of programs, tax credits, rebates to help residents, but also businesses and states make their economies much more efficient and to be able to transition to renewables. And it is through the IRA that we are going to, take what New Hampshire Saves offer, but expand it greatly. So one of the cool things that Rewiring America has done here is they have this calculator that will personalize what you can actually expect to get. And it's right now, it is still vague and general. It's an approximate amount that you could expect to get, but it will get more and more specific as the states and the federal government get more specific with the programs. So you put in some very basic, some basic information, your zip code, whether you rent or you own your home, what your household income is, if you're single, or if you're filing singly, or if you are filing jointly, how many people are in your household, and then you hit calculate. And then underneath, we'll show you first a summary of what you can expect to be eligible for from the IRA with your energy projects. So for a couple that have a household income of 120%, $120,000 that are filing jointly, this, and you live in Peterborough, this is, you'd be likely to get almost $25,000 if you do the various things that are recommended that you can do. This is based on two different primary programs that the IRA has for residents. And one is a series of tax credits. The other is a series of rebates, and they are transitioning those rebates to, if not all, at least most of them be upfront rebates, meaning that much like Bob described for New Hampshire Saves, they would be taken off the costs that you would be paying to your contractor. So it's not like you would have to pay up front and then get a rebate back from the government later. It would actually be, that rebate would be paid to your contractor. So you could just get it as a discount. And so that's part of what they're figuring out now. This, as you can imagine, being a federal program that is very complex, that is brand new, a lot of details are still in the works. But there are some basics that we can still be talking about. So these upfront discounts, the ones I was just talking about, the most you can get from that is $14,000. This is, again, similar in structure to New Hampshire Saves, but a bigger number. And depending upon your income, you can have $14,000 up to 100% of the cost. If you have an income that is lower than 80% of the area median income, so our area, what's the median? If you have 80% or lower, you can get 100% of your rebates, up to $14,000. If you are between 80% and 150% of the area median income, you can still get $14,000, but it'll only be up to half of your cost. So if you have a project that costs $14,000, if you are in that moderate income, the 80% to 150, you can get 7,000. If you are in the low income and you have a $14,000 project, you can get all 14,000. But you can also have a $28,000 project, and if you are a moderate income earner, you will get $14,000 off of that. Does that make sense? Okay, so Bob just did some research on what the area median income is for this area, and it's dependent on how many people are in your family. So, but I just want you to see that they're fairly generous. So you can be getting certainly the moderate income discount with fairly high income levels. So if you've got, a family of two and you are earning less than $140,000, you are eligible for the moderate income discount. So that is one of the things that we're very excited about, is that certainly we want most of the money to be going to folks who are least able to pay, but it's also helping those who often get missed. The folks who aren't rich enough to be able to just spend the money, but aren't earning little enough to get a full discount. So it really, I think they thought that through pretty well. Okay, going back to the calculator. So, as I said before, there are these upfront discounts and there are tax credits. The way you access them are different. And in the website here, there's, it's, as I said, it's very user friendly. By most of the, the labels on this website, you will see a little question mark. And if you just hover your cursor over it, it'll give you more information. So for example, for your tax filing, it'll explain, what do you mean by this label of tax filing. It'll also label what it means to have a certain income, which is your gross income. So you can get a lot more information from this website than just looking at what's easily viewable on this page, and it's really easy to access it. Okay, so we've got rebates and tax credits. So I think I explained a bunch about what the rebates will, or how much the rebates will cover depending on your income. Below are what the rebates are for. And so they are for lots of different appliances. I believe that they are ordering these in the order that they feel you should be looking at them, because of what you can be saving both as your costs, but also in terms of carbon pollution. So they start with, you can get up to $8,000 off of heat pumps for the rebates. You can get up to $4,000 off of your electrical panel. So it's a lot of times, if you are transitioning from an oil furnace, oil boiler, either one, to heat pumps, you might need to upgrade your electrical panel to be able to accommodate that. And there is money to help you do that. You can get up to $4,000. You can get efficiency rebates. These are very similar to what you can get for New Hampshire Saves, and you can stack them with New Hampshire Saves for energy efficiency work you do for your house. So the weatherization, the insulation work, the air sealing work. Electric wiring, heat pump water heater, you can read the list. So all of those will be available as rebates. One thing to know is that these rebates are not yet available. They are going to be administered through the states. So it goes from the US Department of Energy to the New Hampshire Department of Energy. They're in the process now, the federal government, of taking applications from the state to let them know, this is what we're designing for our program to get approval. And New Hampshire is applying for that. They actually just finished a round for input into how we would want to see those rebate program work. And they are applying in the spring. The anticipated start date is in the fall. So if you are wanting to do any of this work, you might want to wait a bit, because while the overall IRA says, yes, you can get work done anytime after the IRA got passed, and you can get your rebates from earlier. What's true is that it's going to be really hard to meet all the requirements without having a program that is up and running. So you don't really want to do this work until the programs are all set. We will let you know when that happens. We will also do another one of these workshops when that happens, to be able to fill in the details of what the program in the state will be. Okay. Yes.
Sure, just, excuse me, just to be clear, these are rebates, not the federal tax credit?
Correct. So there are two different parts of the incentives. One are rebates and one are tax credits. So right now I'm just talking about the rebates. I will get to the tax credits in a moment. So let's move on to the tax credits, and then we're going to do a little bit of let's enter something in and see what you might get. So going on to tax credits. So first question is, a lot of people are very familiar with tax deductions. Tax credits are different. Are people clear what the difference is between a tax credit and a tax deduction? I'm seeing some shaking heads. So let me explain what the difference is. Spoiler alert, tax credits are way better. So that's,
Oh, that's a spoiler.
I mean, it's a good one. It's a good spoiler. So with the tax deduction, we're just going to use very easy numbers. If you earn $100,000 and you are eligible for a tax deduction of $5,000, what you will be entering in as your taxable income will be $95,000, and you will get taxed on $95,000. And so you might say, so the difference between getting taxed on $100,000 and getting taxed on $95,000 will be less, the 95,000, but it won't be a lot less. You might save a few $100s, maybe 1,000. The way it works for a tax credit, you earn $5,000 or you earn $100,000, you get taxed on $100,000. Let's say your tax is crazy and you have a $10,000 tax this year. And if you then have a solar installation that costs $10,000, you are eligible to get 30% off of that, which would be $3,000. You can take $3,000 off of the $10,000 you owe. So you only have to pay $7,000. So it's a lot of money that you are going to be able to utilize in your taxes if you have to pay taxes. So that's the catch with tax credits.
Hmm.
If you don't have to pay any taxes, it's not gonna help you. If you do have to pay taxes, it's a big help. And the tax credits are available now. You don't have to wait for any, any programs to be approved by the federal government and then go back to the state to get it set up and ramp up. You can take them now. And some of them are ones you can get, from work you've gotten done before. So if you have a solar array that got operational last year, you can take the tax credit now. Some of them you have to be able to do it in the calendar year. There are some tax credits that are like 30% and there's no cap to them. That is for solar panels, for battery storage, and for geothermal, for geothermal heating. Other ones, it's 30%, but capped at a certain number, which usually ends up being far less than 30%. So for instance, with heat pumps, if you have a heat pump system that is very small, you can get 30% off of it, but they cap it at $2,000. Many heat pump installations will be much larger than that. So you will need to, put out 10,000, 15,000, 20,000. The tax credit is only up to 2,000. However, if you remember up here, you can get up to 8,000 in rebates. So you can get a total of 10,000 off of your heat pump system if you wait until the rebates are ready. That make sense? Okay.
And your income's in the right range.
And your income is in the right range. Okay. So these are the basics. I'm looking at the time, and so I wanted to kind of have like a little shout out and let's put in some numbers here, but I also want to make sure that we have time for questions. We only have 10 more minutes. And yes, you have a question?
So the credits are available, but the rebates we have to wait.
Correct. Correct. That's exactly right. And we are hopeful that we will not have to wait much longer. We are hopeful that we will be able to start getting those rebates in the fall. In addition to those rebates, in Peterborough, and I don't know if there's anybody on Zoom that's from Harrisville, we will also be having our own incentives. We will be starting a program called Heat Smart Plus that we are waiting daily to get our funding. We applied for a large grant from the Department of Energy in Washington. We were chosen, so we are going to be getting a lot of money for it. We're going to be getting $700,000, and we will be offering some more incentives up to $3,300. So if you combine, but we cannot combine that with the same appliance from the IRA. So if you get the $8,000 with the IRA for heat pumps, the $3,300 would have to be used for something else. However, remember when I said when you are going to be switching out your heat from something that's like oil to electricity, you are very likely going to need to upgrade your electrical system. That money that we're going to be getting can be used for that. And so there's a lot of other pieces that it can get used for. I'm going to not get into more details about that yet because we will be having a big kickoff once we get a signed contract and be explaining all of those details. But I did just want to give you guys a heads up about that so that you will know that there is also more money coming down from that program. Yes.
Does TurboTax know about these rebates?
That's a great question, and I don't know the answer to that. If there's anybody who is either in the room or on the Zoom call that does know the answer to that, we would love to hear it.
I would guess it does not know about the rebates. They're not available yet, and they're not really a tax.
Right.
I would guess that it surely knows about the energy tax credits, because if you've done work in 2023 on anything that the credits apply to, then now is the time, by April 15th, to be taking those credits. So there is an existing form, I think it's 5950, something like that, for taking the energy tax credits, and I would be very surprised if TurboTax did not include that.
Any other questions?
For the weatherization, does it have to be by an approved contractor and certain criteria?
So that's going to be part of what will be laid out with the rebate program. I'm assuming it will. I would imagine that it would be, just like with New Hampshire Saves, there is an approved list of energy auditors that you have to go through. My guess is that it will, and that we will get a list of who those are. But right now, that's just an assumption, because that's going to be determined by the state.
Well, one thing I point out on this screen, I don't think Dory's mentioned it yet, but you also see the estimated energy savings per year.
Yes, thank you.
That's money that keeps coming back to you in effect, as a result of doing the work that is lined up there. So,
I will say that the work that is for the tax credits, the ones that are capped, you are able to reapply them each year. So if you, for instance, have a project where you want to be transitioning to using air source heat pump mini splits and getting rid of your gas or oil furnace, you can do smaller installations of those mini splits each year so that it does get covered by the $2,000. And so you do $2,000 worth of work one year, and then you do 2,000 another year, and you can maximize the rebates that way. Any other questions?
It appears TurboTax does know about it. I sent you a link to a page.
I just heard that I got, okay, excellent. Let me see if,
no, so TurboTax does know about it.
okay, TurboTax does know about it. We can also send it out after the workshop when we send out the recording. The one thing that I didn't talk about, because we're so focused on in-home energy savings and, decreases in carbon pollution, there are some very generous tax credits for electric vehicles if they are eligible. So there are up to $7,500 off of a vehicle, which can be very helpful. There are eligibility requirements both for the vehicle and for the person buying the vehicle. So the vehicle needs to be in a certain price range, and it needs to have certain components, certain percentage of components be either produced or assembled in the US. There are not very many of them right now that are eligible. I'm wondering in this more info if they have a list of which ones they are. See here for eligible vehicles. See, that's why I love this website, is that they've got all these really helpful links that tell you which ones, like which cars. Oh, I see. No, they don't tell you a list. You have to put in your car and see if it is eligible. Yes.
Is that only for new cars?
No, it is not. So, thank you, Carol. What a great question. You'd think we asked her to ask that.
Mr. Blank. Mr. Blank.
So No, you can also get
Can you back up
that.
one more screen?
Thank you.
You passed over, it, sorry.
Did I?
There it is.
There.
Tax credit used EV. Thank you. Thank you very much. Okay, so this gives you some of the information. You can get up to $4,000 off of a used EV. And one of the requirements is that it has to cost no more than $25,000. So there are, and if you are getting a new EV, there are more and more cars that will be coming eligible for these tax credits, because one of the purposes of this law was to get more and more of the green energy economy being produced in the US. And so it is having the desired impact where more companies are saying, oh, in order to be able to, give this rebate to customers, we need to move our operations to the US, and they are doing it. It's not many of them have it up and running yet, but more and more will. Tim, they said you've got a hand raised.
Gene Foster just put up a message, mentioning that you need to be buying your car from a dealer, not an individual.
Thank you, Jean.
Apparently she had that experience or learned it the hard way. I don't know.
Okay, oh, yes. Okay, thank you, Jean. Tim, what's your question?
Yes, on one of your previous screens, I saw the electric car charger was grayed out. Does that mean there's no rebate available?
No, I've been trying to figure out why that is grayed out, but it doesn't seem like it is, sorry.
Maybe income eligibility is a factor?
It could be, I went to, because I saw that too, and I was concerned.
Dory,
Yes, Jerry, do you have an answer for that?
I think one of the things I've read is that most of vehicles that are sold now do include like a level 1 charger. So that part is oftentimes taken up as a part of the price of the vehicle.
I believe that this is for level 2 charging, which is faster than level. I think one of the reasons why it might be grayed out, which would still help us, is because it's either for low income or rural areas. And while we are not necessarily all low income, we would be considered a rural area. And so I think it might be grayed out because most people don't live in a rural area. So yeah, only applicable in rural or low income communities. That was my only guess about why it might be grayed out.
So Peterborough actually must not be regarded as either rural or low income, because that's the information you put in.
Yeah.
Oh, I see. Oh,
But
that's
maybe if
it.
you were a
Well,
little further out,
Okay, thank
you
you.
qualify.
Great.
Try Greenfield.
Yeah, try Greenfield.
Anybody know the zip code?
Yeah, I bet Ann knows the zip code, but let's.
But-
03047.
Yeah,
Say it again?
03047.
047. Okay. Let's see if we get, those are rebates.
drop the info.
Drop the income, okay. Let's do 80. First of all, you're gonna get almost
Still getting
20,000.
14,000.
Well, 14,000 is what it'll be no matter what income below 150, it's just what percentage, and this is still 50%.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's see if I could drop it some more, but okay, so that is grayed out.
Well,
Okay, well, yeah, keep playing with
making the
it.
income so low that nobody's gonna buy any vehicle.
Right.
That needs a charger. That's that price.
So that's why I wanted you to, if you could get just one thing, rewiringamerica.org, and you can play with this to your heart's content. Other questions? Yes,
Jerry, would you repeat the name of the program that is going to apply to Peterborough that you're still waiting for approval of the grant?
yes, so it is called Heat Smart Plus.
Thank you.
And that is a campaign that we will be running as soon as we sign a contract. I'm sorry?
As soon as you have the money.
As soon as we've
Yes.
got the money, exactly. Exactly. So we will let you know once that happens, and we will be doing a big party. Anything else? Any other questions?
I would mention that we have one workshop coming up next month. It'll actually cover some of the same ground that this workshop did. It'll focus on what NHSaves can do for you. It's a button-up workshop. So we'll also talk more directly about the kinds of steps you can take in your home to better control energy flow out through the walls and windows and doors. That'll be on April 25th. It'll be actually, I think it's a Wednesday evening at 6:30, but right back here.
Yes, yes. And then the following month, we're going to be having our very first climate cafe. And for those who don't know what that is, it's a bit different than this kind of informative workshop, but it is a safe space to be talking about our feelings and thoughts about climate change. And it is being co-organized with a high school senior. So we are hoping to get young folks here as well. There will be a speaker, the person who has been organizing the climate cafes in Keene is going to be a speaker for this one in May 22nd, I believe.
Yes.
Yes.
So, did you say the next one is April 20, Wednesday, April 24th?
It's Thursday, April
Oh, sorry.
25th.
Yeah, okay, there.
And I think
I got the day wrong.
Yes, and I think the Climate Cafe is Wednesday, May 22nd.
May 22nd, yeah.
Yeah. Okay, great.
Thank you very much.
Thank
Well,
you.
thank you.
everybody.
Thank you.